Dear me. Good evening. If you have a mobile phone, if you'd like to put it on silent, please, thank you. Please welcome Elaine Thompson with Sound Therapy, Medicine of the Future. Elaine has been involved in sound therapy for over 26 years and is a highly qualified trainer, also teaching in the USA and Europe. Our unique voice profile can tell somebody suitably qualified enormous amounts about our current state of physical and mental health, followed by solutions. Elaine runs the website soundtherapyuk.com, showing details of upcoming training courses, case studies, research, and much more. Please welcome Elaine Thompson.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here this evening. I know you've all come a long way. I've come a long way too. And I am absolutely thrilled to be able to introduce you to the power of sound. And this is all about sound and vibration, but I use it, and many others do, to heal people. Yes, I'll be a bit closer to the mic. Okay, so, and I believe with all my heart that this is the future of medicine. I think that if we go forward into the future, as so many areas are doing, they will realize that you can do, the things you can do with sound are unbelievable. So imagine a world in which you can regulate insulin levels, eradicate haemophilia, which actually I've done that with a 3-year-old, which I'll talk to you about later. Repair kidney function, stop cancer from growing, reverse dementia, balance your hormones for anti-aging. None of us should age.
Amen.
And eradicate pain, depression and PSD. Broken bones will mend faster. Regulate your blood pressure, heal your lungs. Balance acid reflux. How many people are on omeprazole or something like that for acid reflux? And cure emphysema and help neutralize drug addiction too. I've had many clients who have been not only addicted to what they call recreational drugs, but also to medications, antidepressants that they can't get off of. I was going to say Viagra then, not Viagra. I can't think of the name, but serious antidepressants that just go on and on and on, and you can never get off of them. Yes. So what exactly is this sound and frequency that I'm talking about? And most people are familiar with gongs and bowls and tuning forks, and all of those things are wonderful, and they do work to a certain degree. But if you come with something that you've had for a long time, such as ME or multiple sclerosis or cancer, one session with bowls and things like that is just not going to do it. You have to get right inside the body chemistry and do something to make a permanent change to the way you think, the way you speak, and all things about you need to change. You need to go back to the place before you had the disease, because we're not born with these diseases. They suddenly happen. They appear in our lives, and I've spent the last 30 years finding out why these things happen and what exactly creates them. So what does frequency mean? Frequency is measured in numbers. We all need some methodology to be able to translate them, so we use math. And frequency is measured how fast per second does it go, how many cycles per second is a hertz. And then we translate those numbers into color, music, light, vocal tones, tuning of musical instruments, at 440 for the orchestras and things like that. So we have to give it a numerical label in order to understand it. And sometimes with sound, you don't always hear it, like the sound of 5G or the sound of 3G or radio frequencies, but your body registers it, and it affects your mind, body, and energy field. And I've just realised I have a sound on there. I was going to ask anybody if they could hear it. Phil, could you turn that off for me, please? As I'm not allowed to move. So if you turn it off at the tone box, that would be great. How does that feel? Do you all notice a difference? Yeah. And yet, I've been talking, and your mind does not necessarily register it. And that was quite an audible sound. And we're subject to things like fridges, lorries, sounds all the time that affect us. So frequency is a universal language for everything. Everything is made up of millions of frequencies, and so are you. And for example, how do we know if a distant planet has minerals on it? Whether there's helium or iron or some unknown chemical. We send a frequency out and then we measure what comes back. And your entire bodies are creating frequencies all the time. And what your body is doing, according to your thoughts and the way you are, is reflected in your voice. Everybody knows when you pick up the phone, answer it, you can tell how the other person is at the end of the phone. You can tell if they're happy or sick, not very well. And all the messages, the emotional, the physical, the chemical makeup is in your voice. Now, in the work that I do, I measure it in different ways. I measure it with numbers, I measure it with a bar graph, but I also measure it with a waveform, which I will be showing you later on. And these things change as we become subject to our environment. So, for example, you might be stood at a bus stop, or you might be in a pub, or you could be in a queue in the supermarket. And you will know, by the way you feel, how you feel about the person stood next to you. And if that person is not to your liking, i.e. not in harmony with your frequency, or at least not neutral, you will want to move away. We have this inbuilt energy field that senses all this stuff and translates it. And it doesn't translate it into numbers per se, although I can translate it into numbers. It'll translate it into emotions, how you feel about somebody. Every colour in the visible spectrum has its own wavelength and frequency. We all know that. And it has its own colour, its own sound. We can't hear it, but we feel it. And how do we feel it? By the colours that we choose to wear. The decor that we have in our houses. We choose the colours that will be in harmony with us. So if you go into somewhere that's totally pink, you might think, oh, I don't like this. Or something that's green or yellow. Your body, your instincts tell you what is good for you and what is not. And that can be actually translated back into sound, into a graph, and I can then tell you how it's affecting you. What's even more important is that musical notes and colour relate to astrological signs. And most importantly, so do you. So you can see what's up on the screen there. C matches Aries, C sharp is Taurus, and so on and so forth. And the colours are there as well. Yeah, you can all see that. And on the little handouts that I gave, you will see various notes, but with emotional and physical attributes. Generalities, but they're attributes. And you could possibly look and see what might be a problem in your voice. Because your voice is the speaker that displays your frequency status, like a radio or a television. So I could say, what's wrong with you? The tone of my voice has changed. Or I could say, oh, what's wrong with you? The tone of my voice has changed again. And how we display our emotional status and therefore our physical status. Are we angry? If we're angry, then we are producing a whole set of different chemicals to what we produce when we're happy. We change our chemistry every second of the day with every thought we think and every action we take. Thoughts, reasoning, speech, full-blown emotions are seen as frequency patterns in the brain. And I have been to the Haffelder Institute in Germany and done all the tests on this, so I know this to be true. And these tones in your voice exactly match brainwaves. So when I am speaking, I could virtually give you a pattern of what my brainwaves are doing because they're identical. And this is what, I did this many, many years ago, and this is what took me along the route of discovering all about why traumatic events, certain people, affect our body chemistry and change us in the way that we respond to other people. So if you speak or sing a note, those frequencies will spike in your brainwaves. And if I gave you two frequencies together, like 10 hertz and or 20 hertz and 30 hertz, you would see a 10 hertz spike in your brainwaves, because your brain likes to play with sound. It'll take the tones and it'll find the differences. And so if I wanted to give somebody a chemical, if I wanted to do something that I did many years ago with a young man suffering from no growth hormone. So he was 12 years old, but he was only the size of a 2-year-old because he had no growth hormone. And he was receiving treatment from a clinic, a hospital, but it wasn't having any effect. And they called this a particular syndrome. And they said it was genetically inherited. His elder sister had already died from it. The life expectancy was no more than 14. And the mother of this boy took her to a colleague of mine in Belgium. This was in Belgium. And she called me and said, "Can you help? Can you help me give this person, can you help me stimulate the growth hormone for this boy?" So I calculated a formula that had the growth hormone at a very low brainwave level of 3.38, I think, something like that, as a difference. She gave the boy the sound and the mother went away, and she made that child listen to the sounds while he was asleep at night in bed. She put the sounds on in the room. She played it religiously night after night after night. And my colleague didn't see that woman for another 10 years. But she bumped into her, not only last year, I think, in the middle of Antwerp. And she said, "Well, you know, how did you get on? Because the boy could have died. Who knows? How did you get on?" And the woman took out her purse. She brought out a photograph of a 6'2" young man. And she said, "He didn't die. I kept on and I kept on and I kept on all his life, every night, night after night. And he's now on a gap year walk going around Australia." And it can work. It really works like that. The same with the little girl I'm going to talk to you about later on, Natasha, with von Willebrand's disease.